Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling a huge subject, World War II. Our goal is to really get into the core of this conflict, which ran from September 1st, 1939, right up to September 2nd, 1945. The scale is just staggering, an estimated 70 to 85 million lives lost. We want to analyze how such a systemic collapse happened.
Yeah, it's immense. And to understand it, you first need the players,
Mhm.
right? The key factions. You had the Axis powers, think Germany, Italy, Japan mainly. And facing them were the Allied powers, Britain, France, the Soviet Union, the US, China. A truly global lineup.
Okay, so everyone talks about the Treaty of Versailles from 1919. Was that genuinely the seed of it all, or maybe just a convenient scapegoat later on? Like, were those penalties really the thing that festered?
Well, I wouldn't call it just an excuse. It was definitely a major factor psychologically. That treaty bred so much resentment in Germany, this
Right?
spirit of revenge people talk about. It made the German public, frankly, very open to radical ideas.
Oh, okay. So it created a vacuum?
Exactly. A vacuum quickly filled by these expansionist ideologies. You had fascism with Mussolini in Italy, Nazism with Hitler in Germany. And you see a parallel with Japanese expansionism over in Asia, too. They were all sort of geared towards taking territory.
And the spark that lit the fuse was Hitler marching into Poland, September 1st, 1939.
That was the immediate trigger, yes. And once it started, the war unfolded with this revolutionary strategy. Blitzkrieg. Lightning war.
What made Blitzkrieg so different, so effective initially?
Speed. Sheer speed and combined arms, tanks, planes, infantry, all moving fast. It just bypassed the static trench warfare of World War I,
Yeah.
allowed Germany to score these incredibly quick victories. France fell rapidly, for instance.
But then they hit a wall with Britain, didn't they? The Battle of Britain in 1940. What went wrong for Hitler there?
He couldn't get control of the skies. Simple as that, almost. The Royal Air Force, the RAF, put up incredible resistance against the Luftwaffe. It forced Hitler to scrap his invasion plans for Britain. Big setback.
Okay, so that failure in the air over Britain, did that directly lead to the next big moves?
You could say it paved the way, yeah. Because it leads us to two massive turning points in 1941. First, Operation Barbarossa, June 41. Hitler tears up his pact with Stalin and invades the Soviet Union, a colossal undertaking.
And that's where the Russian winter and Soviet resistance really changed the game in Europe, right?
Absolutely pivotal.
That's
The
not it.
Soviets fought fiercely, the sheer scale of the country, the logistics, and then the winter hit. It just stalled the German army, the Wehrmacht. Huge turning point on the Eastern Front.
And almost simultaneously, the other big shift.
December 7th, 1941, Japan attacks Pearl Harbor. That's what brought the United States fully into the war dramatically.
Though wasn't the U.S. already involved, materially, sending supplies via Lend-Lease? Was Pearl Harbor the only trigger or more like the final political justification?
That's a fair point. Material aid was flowing. But Pearl Harbor galvanized American public opinion. It swept away any real domestic opposition to entering the war. So politically, December 7th was the moment.
And while all this global conflict is raging, we have to talk about the Holocaust, this systematic, state-sponsored mass murder. It's horrifying to think the same efficiency used for war was turned to genocide.
It's a crucial, terrible part of the story. Approximately 6 million Jewish people murdered in concentration camps using that very industrial and logistical capacity.
Moving towards the end, the final big push in Europe was D-Day, Operation Overlord.
June 6, 1944, the landings in Normandy. That opened the Western Front. Germany dreaded, and remember, the Soviets were already advancing relentlessly from the east.
So Germany was caught in a pincer.
Effectively, yes. The pressure became unbearable. It leads to Hitler's suicide in late April 45, and then VE Day victory in Europe on May 8, 1945.
But the war wasn't over yet.
No, the fight against Japan in the Pacific continued, and that ended with President Truman's incredibly difficult decision, dropping the atomic bombs. Hiroshima on August 6th, Nagasaki just 3 days later on August 9th. That forced Japan's surrender, which happened formally on September 2nd, 1945.
So after all that devastation, what was the world left with? What changed?
Profound changes. The old European powers, Britain and France, were significantly weakened. And you see the rise of two new global superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union.
And their ideologies were fundamentally opposed, weren't they? Capitalism versus communism?
Exactly. And that clash kicked off the Cold War almost immediately. So one conflict ends, another kind of begins. But there were positive outcomes, too. The United Nations was established in 1945, specifically aiming to prevent future world wars and the weakening of those European empires. It fueled independence movements across Asia and Africa. India's independence is a major example.
Okay, so this deep dive really underscores World War II as this catastrophic lesson, maybe, about unchecked power and nationalism and what happens when international cooperation fails.
It really does. And here's a final thought for you to wrestle with. The war creates the UN for